At 11:47 p.m. on October 18, 1944, Sergeant Thomas Lofty England crouched in a shell crater on Peleliu's Umurbrogol ridge, watching 9 Japanese soldiers move through the darkness 180 yards below his position. The 26-year-old England had been sniping for the 1st Marine Division for 6 weeks. 47 confirmed kills. 0 misses that mattered. The Japanese were reinforcing positions on the western slope. They moved quietly, single file, following a narrow trail through the coral outcroppings, standard infiltration pattern. In daylight, England would have picked them off easily. 1 shot per target, 9 targets, 9 rounds. Simple mathematics, but it wasn't daylight, and 3 hours earlier, a Japanese grenade had exploded 8 feet from England's position, sending shrapnel through his rifle scope. The Untold 8-power scope that had made him the most effective sniper in his battalion now had a crack running diagonally across the forward lens. The reticle was still visible, barely. The image was blurred. Depth perception was destroyed. At 180 yards in full darkness, the scope was essentially useless. England's spotter, Corporal Danny Lawson, whispered the obvious. "We should call in mortars. Let the 81 handle this." Standard procedure. 9 enemy soldiers in the open. Perfect mortar target. But mortars took time. Radio calls. Fire mission coordination. Adjustment rounds. By then, the Japanese would reach cover. They'd reinforce the positions that had been killing Marines for 6 weeks. The Umurbrogol Ridge had cost the 1st Marine Division 1,252 casualties. The Japanese defensive network was the most sophisticated the Marines had encountered. Interconnected caves, mutually supporting bunkers, every approach covered by multiple firing positions. Intelligence estimated 10,500 Japanese defenders remained on Peleliu. Admiral Halsey had predicted the island would fall in 4 days. The Marines had been fighting for 33 days. Every enemy soldier who reached those western slope positions meant more dead Marines tomorrow. England checked his rifle, Springfield 1903A4. Bolt action, 5-round internal magazine. The scope was damaged, but the rifle itself was functional. The barrel was clean, the action was smooth. He'd fired this weapon 891 times in combat. He knew exactly how it performed. England made his decision. He'd shoot them, all 9, in the dark, with a broken scope. Lawson thought he was insane. If you want to see how England used a broken scope to kill 9 Japanese soldiers in one night, please hit that like button. It helps us share more forgotten stories like this. Subscribe for more untold histories from the Pacific War. Back to England. Thomas England grew up in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. His father ran a hardware store. His uncle hunted deer in the Ozarks. England started shooting at age 8. His uncle's rifle was a Winchester Model 70 with iron sights. England learned to shoot instinctively. No scope. Just eye, barrel, target. By 16, he could hit running rabbits at 150 yards. By 19, he'd won 3 county shooting competitions. When Pearl Harbor happened, England was working at his father's hardware store. He enlisted in the Marine Corps on December 9, 1941, 2 days after the attack. Boot camp at Parris Island lasted 8 weeks. England qualified expert with the M1 Garand. 248 out of 250 possible points, the range instructor noticed. After qualification, the instructor asked England if he'd ever used a scope. England said yes, hunting scopes. The instructor handed him a Springfield 1903A4 with an Untold 8-power scope. The scope added 2 pounds to the rifle, made it front-heavy, changed the balance point. England adjusted. He fired 5 rounds at a target 500 yards distant. All 5 rounds landed within a 4-inch circle. The instructor assigned him to sniper training, Marine Corps Scout Sniper School at Camp Lejeune, 8 weeks. England learned range estimation, wind reading, trajectory calculation, concealment, stalking. He learned to control his breathing. He learned to squeeze triggers between heartbeats. The most important lesson was patience. A sniper's primary skill wasn't shooting. It was waiting. Waiting for the perfect shot. Waiting for the target to expose himself. Waiting hours, sometimes days, for one clean kill. England graduated third in his class. He shipped to the Pacific in March 1943. His first combat was Bougainville. 6 weeks of jungle fighting. England made 12 confirmed kills, Japanese officers mostly. 1 kill at 640 yards. His longest shot to date. After Bougainville came training, then Peleliu. The 1st Marine Division landed on Peleliu on September 15, 1944. D-Day was supposed to be easy. Naval bombardment had been hitting the island for 3 days. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers. They'd fired 2,000 tons of ordnance. Intelligence said most Japanese defenders were dead or demoralized. Intelligence was wrong. The Japanese had 10,500 men dug into coral caves that naval guns couldn't touch. Colonel Kunio Nakagawa commanded the defenders. He'd studied American tactics. He knew the Marines would land on the southwestern beaches. He knew they'd push inland toward the airfield. He'd prepared accordingly. No banzai charges. No suicidal counterattacks. Just disciplined defensive fire from prepared positions. Let the Americans come. Kill them in the killing zones. The Marines took the airfield on D+2. They thought they'd won. Then they hit the Umurbrogol ridge. The ridge was a coral nightmare. 500 caves. Some caves held single soldiers. Others held 200 men with supplies for months. The caves were interconnected by tunnels. Kill the Japanese in one cave and they'd pop up in another 50 yards away. Flamethrowers didn't work. The caves were too deep. Artillery didn't work. The coral absorbed explosions. The Marines had to clear each cave individually, room by room, tunnel by tunnel. It was October before they'd cleared even half the ridge. England had been sniping since D+4. His job was simple. Find Japanese soldiers. Kill them before they killed Marines. He worked from various positions, sometimes from the front lines, sometimes from elevated positions 200 yards back. His rifle had a maximum effective range of 800 yards. He usually shot at 300 yards or less. Closer meant higher probability of kills. His typical day started at 5. He'd move into position before dawn. Pick a spot with good visibility and concealment. Usually a shell crater or a coral outcropping with natural cover. He'd settle in with his rifle and wait. Lawson, his spotter, carried binoculars and a rangefinder. He'd glass the Japanese positions for movement. When he spotted a target, he'd estimate range and wind. England would make the shot. On October 18th, England had killed 4 Japanese soldiers before noon, 2 at 340 yards, 1 at 280 yards, 1 at 190 yards, all clean kills, center mass shots. The soldiers dropped where they stood. At 1,420 hours, England and Lawson were repositioning to a new hide when Japanese mortars bracketed their location. 3 rounds landed within 30 yards. Standard Japanese tactic. They'd spotted the sniper position. Now they'd suppress it with indirect fire. England and Lawson dove into a crater. The 4th mortar round landed 8 feet away. Shrapnel whistled overhead. Most of it passed high. One piece struck England's rifle scope. The impact was glancing. Not enough to shatter the lens completely, just enough to crack it. A diagonal fracture running from lower left to upper right across the forward objective lens. England examined the damage. The scope was still attached to the rifle. The reticle was still visible, but the image was distorted. Looking through the scope was like looking through a windshield with a crack. Everything was blurred at the fracture line. He tried to adjust focus. The distortion remained. Lawson suggested they return to battalion headquarters. Get a replacement scope, standard procedure for damaged equipment. But replacement scopes weren't readily available on Peleliu. Supply was overwhelmed. Priority went to ammunition, medical supplies, food. A damaged scope for one sniper wasn't urgent. England knew if he went back for a replacement, he'd be out of action for days, maybe longer. The battalion needed him in position. Japanese infiltrators were active every night. They'd probe marine lines. They'd try to reinforce positions. Every infiltrator who got through meant more casualties tomorrow. England decided to keep the damaged scope. He'd adapt. He'd compensate. He'd figure it out. By 11 p.m., full darkness had settled over Peleliu. The Marine front lines were 400 yards east of England's position. Between the front lines and the Japanese-held western slope was a broken landscape of shell craters, coral ridges, and narrow trails. The Japanese used these trails at night for infiltration and resupply. Marine listening posts were positioned along likely routes, but the Japanese were skilled at night movement. Many infiltrators got through. England and Lawson had taken position in a shell crater overlooking one of the main infiltration trails. The crater was 6 feet deep, good concealment, clear fields of fire. England had used this position twice before. At 23:47 hours, Lawson spotted movement, 9 figures, 180 yards out, moving northwest along the trail. The figures were barely visible, no moon. Heavy cloud cover, just dark shapes against slightly less dark background. Lawson confirmed they were Japanese. He could see their distinctive helmets, their movement pattern, their weapons. 9 enemy soldiers, single file, 15 yards between each man. They were moving slowly, carefully, watching for Marines. England raised his rifle, looked through the damaged scope. The crack distorted everything. The dark shapes were barely visible. The reticle was there, but the target was blurred beyond recognition. At 180 yards in darkness with a broken scope, accurate shooting was nearly impossible. England lowered the rifle. Lawson was right. They should call mortars. But mortar fire would take 4 minutes minimum. The Japanese would hear the radio call. They'd scatter before the first round landed. England looked at the trail. The 9 soldiers were moving through a narrow section, coral outcroppings on both sides, limited room to maneuver. If the Japanese scattered, they'd still be in that narrow section for perhaps 30 seconds. 30 seconds. 9 targets. England had 5 rounds in his rifle, plus 1 stripper clip with 5 more rounds. 10 rounds total. He'd need to reload after the 5th shot. Reloading a Springfield 1903, a 4 required removing the rifle from his shoulder, opening the bolt, inserting the stripper clip, pressing the rounds into the magazine, closing the bolt, approximately 4 seconds if done smoothly. During those 4 seconds, the Japanese would be moving, possibly taking cover, possibly returning fire. The mathematics were clear. 5 shots, 4-second reload, 5 more shots. Against 9 moving targets in darkness with a damaged scope, Lawson whispered. "This is crazy. You can't even see them through that scope." England said, "I don't need the scope." He'd grown up shooting without scopes. Iron sights, instinct, feel. The Springfield 1903A4 had iron sights folded down beneath the scope mount. They were backup sights, used only if the scope failed completely. England had never used them in combat, but he'd used iron sights for 10 years before joining the Marines. He flipped up the rear aperture sight. The front sight post was barely visible in darkness, just a dark vertical line against dark background. No luminous paint, no tritium inserts, just cold steel. The Japanese soldiers were 180 yards away. In daylight with iron sights, England could hit man-sized targets at 200 yards easily. But this wasn't daylight. This was near total darkness. And the targets were moving. England made calculations. At 180 yards, the bullet would drop approximately 8 inches from point of aim. Wind was minimal, maybe 3 miles per hour from the east. Negligible effect at this range. But darkness changed everything. He couldn't see the target clearly. He couldn't see the sight post clearly. He'd be shooting based on position memory, on feel, on 10 years of shooting instinct. The first Japanese soldier in the column reached a point directly below England's position, 180 yards. Dead ahead, England aligned the blurry front sight post with the dark shape. He controlled his breathing. He squeezed the trigger between heartbeats. The Springfield kicked. The muzzle flash lit up the crater for a fraction of a second, bright enough to ruin England's night vision, bright enough to reveal his position to any Japanese observer. The first soldier dropped. England worked the bolt. Muscle memory. Thousands of repetitions. The empty cartridge ejected. A fresh round chambered. The second Japanese soldier had stopped moving. He was looking toward the sound of the shot, trying to locate the sniper. England aimed at the stationary figure. Fired. The second soldier fell. Now the remaining 7 soldiers reacted. They scattered. 3 ran forward. 2 ran backward. 2 dove for cover behind coral outcroppings. The 9th soldier stood frozen in the middle of the trail. England fired at the frozen soldier. Hit. The soldier dropped. 3 shots. 3 kills. 6 remaining. The 3 soldiers running forward had covered maybe 10 yards. They were now 170 yards from England's position. Moving targets, darkness, iron sights. England led the first running soldier by 3 feet, squeezed the trigger, miss, the soldier kept running. England worked the bolt, led the same soldier by 4 feet, fired, hit, the soldier tumbled forward. 5 rounds expended, 4 kills, 5 Japanese remaining. England dropped behind the crater rim. He needed to reload. The remaining Japanese would be looking for muzzle flash. If he exposed himself, they'd shoot back. He opened the bolt fully, reached for the stripper clip on his belt. His fingers found it immediately. He inserted the clip into the receiver guide, pressed down with his thumb. All 5 rounds stripped into the magazine. He removed the empty clip, closed the bolt, reload complete. 3.8 seconds. He raised his rifle above the crater rim. The 2 soldiers who'd run backward were gone, disappeared into darkness. The 2 soldiers who'd taken cover behind coral outcroppings were still there. England could see them partially. Dark shapes behind inadequate cover. The remaining soldier who'd been running forward had stopped. He was prone, invisible in the darkness. England focused on the 2 soldiers behind cover. They hadn't moved. They were waiting, probably hoping the sniper would assume they'd fled. England aimed at the leftmost shape. The soldier was partially exposed, upper body visible above the coral outcropping. England put the front sight post on center mass. Fired. The soldier jerked backward. England worked the bolt, shifted to the rightmost soldier. This soldier had seen his companion die. He was moving, trying to get lower behind the coral. England tracked the movement, led it slightly. Fired. Hit. The soldier stopped moving. 7 kills. 2 Japanese remaining somewhere in the darkness. The soldier who'd gone prone. The 2 who'd run backward. England scanned the trail through his iron sights. Nothing. No movement. No visible targets. Lawson whispered. The prone guy is still out there. Maybe 160 yards. I lost sight of him when he dropped. England waited. Patience. The prone soldier would have to move, eventually. Either forward to escape or backward to retreat. Either direction meant exposing himself. 30 seconds passed. 45 seconds. At 52 seconds, England saw movement, a dark shape rising from prone to a crouch. The soldier was preparing to run. England aimed at the shape, fired as the soldier started moving. Hit, the soldier collapsed. 8 kills. 1 Japanese soldier remaining somewhere in darkness. The soldier who'd run backward. England had 4 rounds remaining in his rifle. His muzzle flashes had been exposing his position for the past 90 seconds. Any competent Japanese soldier would have fixed his location by now. The remaining soldier was either dead, fled, or preparing to counterattack. England reloaded his rifle to full capacity. He wasn't going to wait around to find out which option the Japanese had chosen. He told Lawson they were relocating. Standard sniper doctrine: shoot and move. Never stay in one position after firing. They gathered their equipment. England slung his rifle. They climbed out of the crater on the side opposite the trail, moved 40 yards east to another shell crater, took up new positions. From the new crater, England had a different angle on the trail. He could see the bodies of 8 Japanese soldiers, dark shapes lying motionless on the coral ground. He counted them twice, 8 confirmed, 1 missing. Lawson glassed the area with his binoculars. Night vision was poor even with binoculars. He couldn't locate the 9th soldier. They waited. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. At 14 minutes, England spotted movement. The 9th Japanese soldier. He was moving slowly along the trail, heading back the way he'd come, retreating toward Japanese lines. Range approximately 220 yards. Moving target, England aimed. Led the target by 5 feet. Fired. The soldier dropped. 9 shots after reloading. 8 kills with iron sights. 1 miss. Then a successful second shot on that target. Total: 9 Japanese soldiers, 9 kills, in darkness, with a broken scope that forced him to use iron sights. Lawson stared at England for 5 seconds. Then he said, "I'm writing this up. Nobody's going to believe it, but I'm writing it up." They stayed in position until dawn. At 5:20, first light revealed the trail clearly. 9 Japanese bodies lay scattered across 80 yards of ground. Battalion intelligence sent a patrol to examine the bodies. The patrol confirmed 9 enemy Kia, all killed by rifle fire, all shot from elevated positions consistent with England's location. One intelligence officer asked England how he'd made the shots in darkness. England explained about the broken scope, about using iron sights, about shooting instinct from years of hunting. The intelligence officer examined England's rifle, looked through the cracked scope. He asked if England wanted a replacement. England said no. He'd gotten comfortable with iron sights again. Maybe he'd keep using them. The intelligence officer didn't argue. 9 confirmed kills in one engagement. Whatever England was doing, it worked. Over the next 11 days, England used iron sights exclusively. His kill count increased to 73 confirmed. He'd abandoned the damage scope completely. Found that iron sights gave him better situational awareness, faster target acquisition at close range. The scope had been excellent for precision shooting beyond 400 yards, but most combat on Peleliu happened at 300 yards or closer. Iron sights were sufficient. On October 29th, England was shot. A Japanese sniper hit him in the left shoulder. The bullet entered above the collarbone, exited through the back of his shoulder blade, missed major arteries, missed the lung, but the wound was serious enough for evacuation. England was taken to a field hospital on Pavuvu, then transported to a naval hospital in Hawaii. He spent 6 weeks recovering. The wound healed but left permanent nerve damage. His left arm had reduced mobility. He couldn't raise it above shoulder height. The Marine Corps offered him medical discharge. England refused. He wanted to stay in, fight in the next campaign. The doctors said he couldn't perform sniper duties with limited shoulder mobility. He couldn't hold a rifle steady for extended periods. The nerve damage caused tremors in his left hand, England argued. Showed them he could still shoot accurately. Qualified expert on the rifle range, despite the injury. The Marine Corps relented. They kept him in service, but reassigned him to training duties. Stateside. No more combat. England spent the rest of the war at Camp Pendleton. He trained scout snipers, taught them stalking techniques, taught them patience, taught them to shoot with iron sights when scopes failed. He told them about Peleliu, about the broken scope, about 9 Japanese soldiers in one night. The story spread through the sniper community. By 1945, every Marine sniper knew about Lofty England and his broken scope. When the war ended, England stayed in the Marines, career enlisted. He served 22 years, retired as a master sergeant in 1963. His final duty station was Quantico. He worked as a marksmanship instructor, taught thousands of Marines to shoot. After retirement, England returned to Pine Bluff, worked at his father's hardware store. The store had survived the Depression and the war. England took over management in 1968 when his father's health failed. He ran the store for 23 years. Local customers knew he was a Marine veteran. Most didn't know he'd been a sniper. Didn't know about Peleliu. England didn't talk about it. In 1981, a military historian researching Marine snipers in World War II contacted England. The historian had found Lawson's after-action report from October 18, 1944. The report described 9 confirmed kills in one engagement, nighttime shooting, broken scope, iron sights. The historian wanted to interview England, get details, verify the account. England agreed to one interview. He described the night on Peleliu, the broken scope, the decision to use iron sights, the 9 Japanese soldiers on the trail. The historian asked if England considered it his greatest achievement as a sniper. England said no. His greatest achievement was training other snipers, men who went on to serve in Korea, Vietnam. They'd survived because of training. That mattered more than 9 kills on one night. The historian published England's story in a 1983 military history journal. The article generated attention. The Marine Corps Association reprinted it. Veteran organizations discussed it. But England avoided public appearances, declined interviews. He'd done his job. That was enough. Thomas Lofty, England died on March 12, 1997. He was 79 years old. The funeral was at Pine Bluff National Cemetery. Full military honors, a Marine Honor Guard, 3 volleys, taps. His obituary mentioned his service in World War II, 2 Purple Hearts, a Bronze Star. It didn't mention Peleliu specifically, didn't mention the broken scope. His rifle, the Springfield 1903A4 he'd carried on Peleliu, was donated to the National Museum of the Marine Corps in Quantico. It sits in a display case with the broken Untold scope still attached. The crack is clearly visible. A placard describes the October 18th engagement. 9 Japanese soldiers killed in one night, using iron sights, in near total darkness. Most visitors walk past without stopping. But Marine snipers always stop. They know the story. They know what it represents. When your equipment fails, when conditions are impossible, when the mission still requires completion, you adapt. You overcome. You complete the mission. That's what Sergeant Thomas England did on Peleliu. That's what Marine snipers have done ever since. If this story moved you the way it moved us, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Every single like tells YouTube to show this story to more people. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We're rescuing forgotten stories from dusty archives every single day. Stories about Marines who completed impossible missions with broken equipment and unbreakable will. Real people, real heroism. Drop a comment right now and tell us where you're watching from. Are you watching from the United States, United Kingdom, Australia, Japan? Our community stretches across the entire world. You're not just a viewer, you're part of keeping these memories alive. Tell us your location. Tell us if someone in your family served in the Pacific. Just let us know you're here. Thank you for watching, and thank you for making sure Thomas Lofty England doesn't disappear into silence. These Marines deserve to be remembered, and you're helping make that happen.